Hey guys, Mark here. I hope you are well. In today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how to make a monkey fist keychain using a piece of rope. All in all, this is a fairly traditional and easy project to do. The result is a nice looking keychain with a fairly nautical theme to it. With that said, let's take a look at the keychain, then make our own. Here you can see a fairly simple version of the monkey fist keychain. It is made by taking a piece of rope and covering a spherical object using a monkey fist knot. We have two strands coming out of the knot, and we use these two strands to attach a key ring or a snap hook onto the keychain. Finally, we finish such a keychain with some sort of a secure finish. In this case, this would be the Solomon bar, also called the Portuguese signet. There are other ways of finishing. For example, by using a two-stranded gaucho knot. This is probably my favorite way of finishing. In this video, I'm going to show you both ways of finishing such a keychain, so an easy way as well as a harder yet more decorative way. With this said, let's take a look at the supplies, then tie our keychain. As far as supplies go, the first supply that you're going to need is going to be a core for your keychain. We're going to wrap our monkey fist around a core. Now you have many different diameters of a core available. In my experience, the golf ball is a bit too big for a functional keychain. Wooden spheres found in various art-related shops or a marble will work much better. In my tutorial, I'm going to be using a marble about 5/8 of an inch in diameter. The size of the core is going to determine the number of passes needed in order to wrap around the core. So for a marble, I had to do 4 passes around the marble on each side in order to wrap around it. A larger core is going to need more passes, or you're going to need a rope of a larger diameter. So, after you choose a core, we can move on to the cordage. For the cordage used to tie the keychain, you can use natural cordage such as hemp or cotton, or you can use synthetic ropes such as paracord. It really is a matter of preference. In this tutorial, I'm going to be using 3mm cord, about 6.5 feet long. So 6.5 feet of 3mm rope. The rope also determines the number of passes used to cover the core. The thicker the rope, so the more diameter that it has, the less passes you need to do to create a monkey fist knot. I think this is fairly logical. So the size of the core as well as the size of the cordage determine the number of passes in a monkey fist knot. Some hardware is also quite handy. You can use a key ring or a snap hook, for example, in order to attach your keychain onto your keys. Finally, we're also going to need something to cut the strands off of our rope once we have finished the project. I also recommend using some tape in order to tape up the ends of your rope. This is going to prevent it from fraying or unraveling. Now, if you're using artificial rope, you can just melt the ends instead. We can now begin tying our keychain. The first thing that we're going to do is form a monkey fist knot. I'm going to grab one end of my rope, and with the other hand I'm going to create a jig by extending my two fingers like this. I'm going to place my rope over the two fingers like this and grab the end using a third finger. I can now begin making a few wraparounds. As mentioned before, for this size of a marble, which is 5/8 of an inch, I'm going to need 4 wraparounds. Now, after reaching my goal of 4 wraparounds, I'm going to start wrapping around horizontally. Now, when tying a monkey fist knot, it is extremely important that your strands lie one next to the other and that they don't cross. They need to be neatly lined up in order to get the proper look for your knot. So, after you have 4 wraparounds done horizontally, you can grab your rope and place a core inside. In my case, the core is a marble. Like this. Now I can begin a third set of wraparounds. I'm going to travel through the top here. Like this. Then travel through the bottom. Then again through the top. And through the bottom. Through the top. And through the bottom. Now, just like in the previous passes, the strands need to be neatly lined up. One next to the other, they shouldn't cross. So like this. Once you have done your third set of passes, you should have both of the ends on one side. Like this. So this is the front. We have the first series of passes. So 4 passes, then the second set of passes, and the third set of passes. We can now begin tightening. The tightening process is fairly simple. We're going to start where we have finished using our working end, and we're going to go through the entire knot and bring the slack out of this shorter end. This is because the goal is to have these two strands of equal length once we have finished tightening. So we begin at the working end and draw the slack out until we have the same length for both of our strands. So I have done one set of tightening so far. You can see that the monkey fist is still quite loose. I'm going to repeat the process several times to get a nice and consistent look for my monkey fist knot. This is what I want in the end. We have now tied a monkey fist knot. We're going to grab a piece of hardware, a key ring, a snap hook, or whatever you have, and we're going to first use the easy way in order to attach our hardware onto the monkey fist. So first, I'm going to show you how to do the Solomon bar. So we take our monkey fist, we take the two ends, and we feed them through our piece of hardware, like this. So a bit away from the monkey fist. Now bring the two working ends to the side, like this, and we can now begin tying a Solomon bar. So we're going to start with the left strand, come under the two middle strands, like this, then over the right strand, like this. Then with the right strand, pass into the loop on the left side, going over the top. Like this. Now tighten up. The first knot needs a bit of tightening, then it's going to get a bit easier. So like this. Pick up the right strand this time, pass under the two middle strands, and over the left one. Then with the left strand, pass over the top and into the loop on the right side. Tighten up. Like this. Now again, the left strand passes under the two middle strands and over the right one. Now the right strand passes over the middle strands and into the loop on the left. Tighten up. And continue, this time with the right strand, under the two middle strands, over the left one. Then over the top, into the loop on the right. Tighten up. And continue, left strand, then right strand, and so on. So after lining up a series of knots, it is time to finish up the two ends. One way of finishing is that if you're using artificial rope, you can trim the ends and simply melt them. With natural ropes, you need to finish up another way. One way is to take one of the strands, run it under these middle strands, and come up the top. Then trim that strand. Take the other strand, go under and through on the bottom, and come up here at the top as well. Then trim. Now this is easier said than done because the Solomon bar is quite firm and doesn't allow for 2 more strands. I usually get around this by either using a lacing needle or something to spread apart the strands a little bit. So this is one way of finishing. Another way is to finish up using a decorative knot. Now to finish up with a lanyard knot, we're going to pick up the left strand and use it to make a loop. Like this. Then pick up the right strand, fold it up under the loop, like this. Then with the right strand, pass over this strand, so the left one coming out of the Solomon bar, then under the left strand, so under here, then over, under, over these 3 strands. So over, under, and then over. Like this. And this is what you should get. Now pull in your working ends a little bit, just to get a bit more room to work with. Then pick up the top right strand and pass it past this left strand coming out of the Solomon bar. So past, then through the middle, like this. Pick up the bottom left strand, pass it past this right strand that's coming out of the Solomon bar, then under and through the middle. And this ties a lanyard knot. Now finally take your monkey fist and also push it through the very middle of the lanyard knot. Like this. We're going to tighten up the lanyard knot. You start at the 2 strands coming out of the Solomon bar, and you go through the knot, pulling those 2 strands in, and running the slack out through the working ends. Like this. Take the other strand and repeat the process. And we're going to keep tightening until we get a nice looking lanyard knot. So you can already see a pattern forming, but the knot needs to be really tight. So retighten the knot a few more times to get a nice looking knot. So after tightening up the lanyard knot, you are ready to trim the 2 ends, and that will complete your keychain. So finishing up the Solomon bar does take a bit of effort. You either have to tuck in the 2 strands back under, or you need to finish them using a decorative knot. With this done, we can also take a look at a more advanced finish for this style of a keychain. I'm now also going to show you a bit more of an advanced method of finishing. We're going to tie a 2-stranded gaucho knot in order to finish up a keychain. So as the basic setup, I took the 2 strands coming out of the monkey fist knot, passed them through a snap hook. You can also use a keyring, for example, and then I secured the two working ends onto the two strands using some sort of a wraparound. In my case, I did a common whipping, but you can just tie them off as well. The point of this is just to prevent my strands from moving about too much, so that it is a bit easier for me to demonstrate the technique. When you get used to tying this style of a knot, you don't need to do this basic wraparound. To begin tying, I'm going to grab the two working ends and I'm going to wrap them around these two strands coming out of the monkey fist. I'm going to do 3 wraparounds. So once, twice, and 3 times. Now, as you can see, I have 6 strands wrapping around the 2 strands coming out of the monkey fist knot. I have my 2 working ends here on the bottom right. To continue tying, I'm going to grab the left, so the first working end here, and I'm going to weave it through these 6 strands, going under, over, under, over, under, over. So 3 unders and 3 overs. So under, then over, under, over, under, and finally over. Take the other strand, so the one on the right, and do the same sequence. We're going to start here, so under the strand that we just used, going under, over, under, over, under, and finally over on the left side. So we are almost done. We have only 2 more passes to do. We're going to grab one of the strands. So let's say that we grab this one. Remember that we finish each sequence with an over. Then pass under the other strand, so under it, and reverse towards the right side. We're going to go parallel to this strand on the left and do what it does. So we continue over, under, over, under, and finally over on the right side. Then pick up the other strand, again here on the left side, which is now ending its sequence with an over 2. We're going to travel under the other strand here, which has now been used, like this, And again we travel parallel to the strand on the left. So we go over, under, over, under, and exit with an over on the right side. So we're now on the right side. We have 2 strands to finish up. Since we finish each sequence with an over one, we're going to re-enter with an under. In this case, it's going to be an under 2. Under one of the strands as well as under the other working end. Under 2. Then continue over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, and finally over 2. With that we exit on the left side. We pick up this strand on the right and we start our next sequence under 2, then over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, and over 2 on the left side. So after tying the gaucho knot, we can finish up the ends by running them under the knot, then tightening the knot and trimming the ends. So remember that we finished with an over 2, then run under the knot and through it. Like this. Pick up the other strand. Again, remember that we finished with an over 2, then travel under the entire knot, and out the other end. Like this. To tighten up this knot, we're first going to remove this tied section. Now we're going to take one of the strands that's coming into the knot and we're going to pull on it in order to get the strand into the knot. Then we're going to run this slack through the entire knot. And pull the slack out of one of the working ends. Take the other strand that's coming into the knot. Again, pull it in. Then pull it out of one of the two working ends. And with that you have finished up your knot. Now usually I'm going to retighten it several times just to get a really tight knot. Then trim the ends and your keychain is complete. So guys, with this second technique of finishing the keychain demonstrated, we came to the end of this video. I hope that you didn't have a hard time tying it, and I hope that I made everything clear enough. With this said, thank you very much for joining me and see you next time.